Okay, today in class we're talking about a hypothesis. So a lot of you, because of your project proposal, already wrote a hypothesis, and this document is what you saw in Google Classroom, and it's what was due last week. The third page of this document is where you would enter your name and your hour, and here's all of the directions. And I had suggested to you that you come in and you take your hypothesis that you wrote from the project proposal, you copy it, and you just paste it here for a moment. But what I've noticed is most of you, I don't think, even bothered to read the first 2 pages of this. So let's pay attention at the board what we have going on. So writing a great hypothesis. You guys just aren't great at writing hypothesis, and I don't understand why, but if it makes you feel better, I didn't get great until about 7 years ago. Okay, so here's some points to remember when formulating a proper and true hypothesis. Number 1, the question comes first. Number 2, a hypothesis is a statement, not a question. So you don't say, I wonder if the soil from Lowe's will help my plants grow better than the soil from the dollar store. You're going to make a statement because you know it's true or you believe it to be true. You say, the soil from Lowe's will make my plants grow more significantly than the soil from the Dollar General. Number 3, make it clear. Number 4, keep the variables in mind. What do I mean by that? Independent and dependent variable. Number 5, make sure your hypothesis is testable. What's the point of writing a hypothesis and getting an experiment together if you can't do the experiment? Number 6, do your research and have proof of it. Number 7, don't bite off more than you can chew. So last year we had a student and she did an E. coli experiment. It was super cool. We had to redo it 3 times. Well, she did because we didn't do anything. We just sat there. Okay, so she had to be prepared and be able to do it. Well, she had to come in and test it every day. She had to take pictures of the auger plates, and she had to count how many colonies were there. She had to measure how much it had grown, and she had to do that every 24 hours. Well, the problem was last year we had a series of snow days. Remember those? Well, when she didn't come on the snow days or when she wasn't coming in on the weekend, she realized, oh, wait a minute, this is a problem. So the 3rd time she did that experiment, guys, she had to start over twice. So she did it the first time and had to start over 2 more times. So the 3rd time she went to go get this, she ended up having to come in every day, whether there was ice, whether it was a Saturday, whether it was a Sunday. Now that was something that she was willing to do, and it was supported by her family. If that's not going to be your case, don't bite off more than you can chew, even if it's cool. Next, this is a generic statement. If I do this, then this will happen, but it works. So why not use it? Think of it as a formula, plug and play. Basically, you're setting out to prove or disprove your hypothesis. What you think will happen, of course, should be based on your preliminary research and your understanding of the science and scientific principles involved in your proposed experiment. In other words, you don't guess. You're not taking a shot in the dark, and you're not pulling your statement out of thin air. The misnomer, an educated guess, is incorrect. Instead, we should be saying the best inference possible. So what I find is people don't know what inference means. So raise your hand if you've never heard of what it means to infer. So I found a lot of my students, second hour, had an issue with this. So if I said, hey, there was a girl and she took a look at her clock, and all of a sudden she jumped out of bed, threw on some clothes that were in a crumbled pile on the floor, ran into the bathroom, grabbed her brush, didn't brush her teeth, grabbed her backpack, and flew out the door. What would you infer from that? If you keep in mind the format of a well-constructed hypothesis, you should find that writing your hypothesis is not difficult to do. You will also find that in order to write a solid hypothesis, you need to understand what your variables are for your project. It's all connected. If I never water my plant, it will dry out and die. Well, duh. That seems like an obvious statement, right? This hypothesis is too simplistic for your grade level. As you work on deciding what question you will explore, you should be looking for something for which the answer is not already obvious or already known to you. When you write your hypothesis, it should be based on your inference, not on known data. Similarly, the hypothesis should be written before you begin your experiment procedure, not after the fact. I can't tell you how many students, including myself as a former student, that said, hey, let's just try this. And then I wrote my hypothesis at the end. You guys, we're testing a hypothesis. How in the world do you have an experiment to even do if you don't know what you're doing in the experiment, because you don't know what you're testing, because you don't know what question or statement you're trying to prove or disprove? See what I'm saying? You're literally putting the wagon before the horse. Okay? You're putting the car before the engine. So again, as I said before, there are 7 steps you need to know to follow to build a great hypothesis. Number 1, the question comes first. Before you make a hypothesis, you have to clearly identify the question you are interested in studying or learning more about. Half down. Number 2, it is a statement. It is not a question. It must be educated. Number 3, make it clear. A good hypothesis is written in clear, simple language. That means when I read your hypothesis or when the judge reads your hypothesis, we should know exactly what you thought was going to happen and why you started your project. Keep the variables in mind. A good hypothesis defines the variables in easy to measure terms like who the participants are. So anybody in here doing product testing, product marketing, sociology, or psychology? If you're doing any of those, you're going to be telling me who the participants are. We had a group of 50 people split into groups of 10. 10 people were kindergartners, 10 people were 5th graders, 10 people were 8th graders. See what I'm saying? They all had similar backgrounds and home lives. You have to be specific. Also, what changes during testing and what the effect those changes will have. Number 5, make sure your hypothesis is testable. To prove or disprove your hypothesis, you need to be able to do an experiment and take those measurements, or if you're doing a science fair project based on the things that I just said, the observations are big things you're going to do. So to create a testable hypothesis, you need to do 3 of these. Thought about what experiments you will need to carry about to do the test. Identified the variables in the project, independent variable, dependent variable, constants, etc. Include the independent and dependent variables in the hypothesis statement. By doing that, that helps ensure that your statement is specific enough. 6, as we've been saying, do your research. And 7, don't bite off more than you can chew. So here's your assignment directions. Don't forget to put your name and your hour. Here's why. We're going to have a peer review. It'll be the end of this week, and if we have snow, it'll be the beginning of next. Here's how it works. You're going to get a packet full of different people's hypotheses, and you will have to read them and see if you can answer certain questions. Like, I know what they're testing. I think it can be testable. They have a cause and effect. They've shown what their variables are going to be. And you're going to write your notes, and you're going to fill out a rubric, and we're going to hand it back to them. Okay, so let's take a look at the directions. You're using science to predict something and justify that prediction. You will be explaining how you think your project can demonstrate your mission. You will be making a prediction about the outcome of your experiment. You must always state the results of the outcome in measurable terms. Those are your variables. You are showing cause and effect. And you must be specific. Nobody likes bad directions. Nobody. So, Mrs. Lewis's example below will highlight what is being tested in yellow, and the expected results will be highlighted in blue. If I give a plant the top-selling brand of fertilizer, my plant will grow better than all the other plants with regular fertilizer. Here are some hints to remember. I told you what my independent variable was, what I was testing, and the cause. And here I showed you the dependent variable, what I was measuring, and the effect. So if I blank, then blank will happen. Now write it below without the highlighted sections and use your words to be clear. A hypothesis may be 1 sentence or it can be 3 or 4. So what I showed you earlier was I went through here and I pasted my previous hypothesis that I had to have for my project proposal. So for those of you who don't have your project proposals done, you are super behind. And you can't do your test until it's turned in and it's improved. And it has to be approved by 3 different committees, so that takes some time. So do you have to use this format? No, you don't. It's a very simplified format, but as long as you have those 7 things in there, you're good. So what I would do is I would paste my hypothesis that I've already written here, and then follow this right here. Start writing your hypothesis and see if you can highlight the proper areas in yellow and blue. Did you follow the format discussed on the previous pages? If not, tweak the hypothesis you originally came up with for your project proposal. So what I'm trying to say is either your hypothesis is great, or it's terrible, or it's pretty good. It just needs to be tweaked a little bit, right? Tightened up. And so that's how you guys are going to know how to do it.